I'm revisiting the writings of Brother Lawrence on the practice of the presence of God, and one of his maxims, his first one, he says, "The practice which is alike the most holy and the most general and the most needful in spiritual life is the practice of the presence of God. It is the schooling of the soul to find its joy in his divine companionship, holding with him at all times and at every moment humble and loving converse, without set rule or stated method, in all time of our temptation and tribulation, in all time of our dryness of soul and disrelish of God, yes, and even when we fall into unfaithfulness and actual sin." It doesn't take a lot of formality, it doesn't take a lot of philosophy to approach the divine. It's a very personal thing. When you say God, there's no knowing what is meant by that between people. Each one of us carries in our heart our own idea of what is meant by the word God. Whether we believe in it or don't believe in it, we still have an individual conception of it. And that's wonderful. That's fine, because that's something as large and something as universal as the divine, the beloved, is naturally going to relate to each one of us in our own personal kind of way. But there's such a wonderful benefit to the investigation of God, to the investigation of this divine principle, in whatever form you take it. For me, it's the isness of being. My own existence is the beloved. It involves, I would say, a faith, but nowadays more than a faith, kind of a discovery, really, on my own part, of the basis of all things being rooted in a divine love. Now, divine love, which is very interpretive by the perceiver, and so it's something that has to be deeply understood, deeply opened to, contemplated. It's not an easy idea. It's something one has to really investigate. Because for all things that happen to manifest out of love is quite a thing to ponder. It takes a lot of open investigation to do that. But I like what Brother Lawrence is saying here, that to do this, holding him at all times, at very humble and loving converse, to speak freely with that inner voice, or to wonder freely in the presence of your being, as it were, to think about life, think about ramifications, and to do it in a compassionate state within your own mind, within your own self, within your own heart, of a very deep intimacy can be developed in time. He says, without a set rule or stated method. So it doesn't matter how you go about establishing that relationship. Each person that you have a friendship with, you do different things with them at different times, and you enjoy different things together. And it's important in your solitary time to find the things that highlight that inner love in you, that highlight that inner peace in you, that highlight that awareness in you for being, and an environment that helps you to relax into love, relax into that openness, that humility of the divine conversation within, a safety for investigation, for finding and for experimenting. In all time of our temptations and tribulations, at all times of the dryness of our soul and the disrelish of God. That's an interesting one. Even, Ramakrishna, he had a very interesting relationship with Swami Vivekananda, who was an atheist for a while. And that didn't bother Ramakrishna at all. Ramakrishna didn't try and talk him out of it. Atheism is a part of the world. It's a part of the relationship with this divinity in some form or other. We're still interacting with a world, with a universe, with an inner world. So there's something there. Now, whether we want to call it God or believe in it in a religious way or not, that's really not important. Ramakrishna even teaches an atheist how to pray. He says, that doesn't matter whether you believe or not. He says, when you pray, just say, hey, God, I don't know if you really exist or not, but if you're there and if you're listening, these are my concerns, or these are my thoughts, these are my feelings. But the important thing is to let down all of your guard inside when you approach that notion of love. when you approach that notion of universality, that oneness of all things, to have a space within you that's not cynical, that's not hateful, that doesn't feel threatened or forced to think in a particular way or to act in a particular way. To know that you are with the beloved regardless of condition, and that will always be true. I like to think of it, like I mentioned earlier, as my own existence. My own existence requires no particular behavior or thought pattern or ideology or philosophy on my part. My own existence, the ponderance of that, friendship with that for me, is so unrequiring and yet so comforting, and really can take you to very beautiful places. So however you think of the beloved, the divine, the mother of the universe, that divine unity, that isness, that emptiness, the void, the one, the numerous ways that God has been described, all of these ways are fine and valid and true, because it's the essence of all of those relationships that we're looking for, something that is beyond a definition, something that's beyond a surface description. The important thing, Brother Lawrence is saying, is just become continually aware of your relationship with God, your relationship with being, your relationship with love. To continue to find peace within yourself, to find an oasis of life within yourself, to find a strength that's within yourself, to remove your requirements from the outside world in order to be happy or to be content, so that you're not running around as a beggar, perpetually asking for the right circumstances to be happy. Learn what it takes and what it requires within your own self to give yourself that permission to be content, to be happy without cause, without reason, to accept it as a nature within yourself, to be loving, to be caring, to be reaching out to others. All thoughts of need become secondary. That's the path to a divine life, to a fulfilled life, to great friendships, to inner peace.